The old merchant had been drinking too much that night. His name was, and he sat in a dark corner of the space station bar, surrounded by traders and travelers from a dozen different species. The young ones were laughing and joking, talking about their cargo runs and their profits, but was not laughing. He was remembering. "You young fools know nothing," he said suddenly, his voice cutting through the noise. "You fly your ships and count your credits and think the galaxy is safe, but I remember the old stories. I remember what my grandfather told me before he died." A young trader clicked his mandibles in amusement. "What stories, old one? Tales of space monsters and ghost ships." Leaned forward, his four eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Stories of the pale wanderers, the soft ones who burn, the species that was so dangerous, so terrifying that the Galactic Council erased them from existence." The bar grew quiet. Even the youngest traders had heard whispers of these legends. "Humans," said the word coming out like a curse. "They called themselves humans, small creatures, weak bodies, short lives. But my grandfather served on a ship that encountered one of their vessels 3,000 years ago. He was the only survivor." "What happened?" someone asked. His hands trembled around his drink. "The human ship was damaged, drifting near the border of their space. My grandfather's captain thought it would be easy salvage. They boarded the vessel expecting to find corpses. Instead, they found survivors. Just 3 humans, wounded and dying. Any other species would have surrendered. Any rational being would have begged for mercy." He paused, taking a long drink. "The humans fought, with broken weapons, with their bare hands, with their teeth. They killed 40 soldiers before they finally died. 40 trained warriors against 3 wounded humans. My grandfather escaped only because he hid in a storage compartment until it was over." The young laughed nervously. "That is impossible. No species could." "The council agreed with you," interrupted. "They said it was impossible. They said humans were too dangerous to exist alongside civilized species, so they quarantined their entire star system. They collapsed the hyperspace lanes. They erased the coordinates from every database. They pretended the humans had never existed at all." "And now," another trader asked, "are they still there?" Stared into his empty glass. "No one knows. No one has visited that sector in 3,000 years. Maybe they died out. Maybe they destroyed themselves. Or maybe," he trailed off. "Maybe what?" "Maybe they have been waiting, watching, growing stronger, and maybe someday they will come back." The bar remained silent for a long moment. Then someone laughed, and the spell was broken. The traders went back to their drinks and their jokes, dismissing the old merchant's words as drunken nonsense. But did not laugh. He sat alone in his corner, staring at the stars beyond the station's windows, and wondered if the legends would stay legends forever. He would find out soon enough. 6 months later, the Dominion came. The first attack happened without warning. The colony world of Prime had been a peaceful place, home to 2 billion beings who spent their days farming the rich purple soil and raising their families. They had no military, no weapons, no defenses. They had believed, like so many others, that the age of galactic warfare was over. They were wrong. The Dominion fleet appeared in orbit at dawn, blocking out the rising sun with their massive warships. The colonists looked up at the sky in confusion, wondering who these visitors were and what they wanted. They found out quickly. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. Energy beams rained down from orbit, vaporizing cities and towns and farms. The colonists tried to flee, but there was nowhere to go. They tried to surrender, but the Dominion did not accept surrenders. They tried to hide, but the sensors found them wherever they went. When it was over, Prime was a smoking ruin. 2 billion lives had been erased in less than a day. And the Dominion moved on to their next target. Admiral Al stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching the destruction with cold satisfaction. He was tall for his species, his scaled hide marked with the ritual scars of 100 victories. His 6 eyes showed no emotion as escape pods were systematically destroyed by his gunners. "Status report," he commanded. "The colony is eliminated, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "No survivors detected. The fleet is ready to proceed to the next target." "Excellent. Set course for the border worlds. We will begin the primary invasion in 3 cycles." The Dominion had emerged from the spaces between galaxies, a mystery to every species they encountered. No one knew where they came from or why they had suddenly appeared in known space. What everyone knew was that they were unstoppable. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything the galactic community possessed. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their shields impenetrable. But it was not their technology that made them truly terrifying. It was their philosophy. The Dominion did not conquer for resources or territory. They did not enslave populations or demand tribute. They simply erased. Every species they encountered was evaluated, judged, and either accepted into the Dominion as servants or eliminated entirely. There was no negotiation. There was no mercy. There was only the cold calculation of whether a species was useful or worthless. So far, the Dominion had found every species in the galaxy worthless. The Galactic Council had tried everything. They had sent diplomats who never returned. They had assembled fleets that were destroyed in minutes. They had offered surrender and received only silence in response. The great civilizations that had ruled the galaxy were falling, one by one, and no one could stop it. On the space station where Old had told his stories, panic was spreading. Refugees poured in from the destroyed worlds, bringing tales of horror and despair. The trading routes were collapsing. Ships were disappearing. The galaxy was dying. And somewhere in a forgotten corner of space, something was waking up. Captain Cole stood on the observation deck of Sol Station, staring out at the blue marble of Earth hanging in the darkness. He was 53 years old, with gray hair that he had earned in too many battles and eyes that had seen too many friends die. Behind him, the massive space station hummed with activity as technicians and soldiers prepared for what was coming. "The Council thinks we should wait," said a voice behind him. Cole did not turn around. He knew that voice well. Commander Brooks had been his second in command for 12 years, ever since the Battle of Mars when she had saved his life by dragging him out of a burning shuttle. She was shorter than him by a head, with red hair that she kept tied back in a regulation braid and a temper that she kept under control most of the time. "The Council is wrong," Cole said quietly. "They say we are not ready. They say we need more ships, more weapons, more time." "Time is exactly what we do not have." Cole turned to face her. "The Dominion has destroyed 14 inhabited worlds in the past 2 months. At their current rate of advance, they will reach our sector in less than a year. We can wait and let them come to us, or we can go to them. And if we lose, then we lose fighting, but I do not intend to lose." Studied him for a long moment. She had served with Cole long enough to know when he had made up his mind about something, and she had learned to trust his judgment, even when it seemed insane. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "Get me the Defiance. Full crew, full armament, ready to launch in 12 hours. Just one ship." Cole smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. "For now, one ship is all we need. We are not going to win this war with numbers. We are going to win it with a message." "What kind of message?" "The kind that makes the Dominion understand exactly what they are dealing with." 12 hours later, the EDC Defiance launched from Sol Station and disappeared into hyperspace, carrying 60 crew members and enough firepower to level a small moon. Its destination was the cluster, where intelligence reports indicated the Dominion fleet would strike next. The crew of the Defiance knew they were probably flying to their deaths. They went anyway. That was what it meant to be human. Dr. Park was not supposed to be anywhere near the war zone. She was a scientist, not a soldier, and her research vessel-curious mind was designed for studying stellar phenomena, not engaging in combat. But when the Dominion had attacked her and killed everyone she had ever loved, she had stopped caring about what she was supposed to do. Now she drifted in the darkness between stars, monitoring Dominion communications and waiting for a chance to do something, anything, that might hurt the monsters who had destroyed her life. Her sensors picked up the human ship before she even knew what she was looking at. Unknown vessel detected, her computer announced. Design does not match any known species. Origin unknown. 4 hands flew across her console, bringing up every scanner she had. The ship that appeared on her screen was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was angular and aggressive, painted in dark colors that made it hard to track. Its hull was covered with what appeared to be weapons, more weapons than any ship its size should be able to carry. But it was not the ship itself that made its breath catch in her throat. It was the symbols painted on its hull, strange characters in an unknown language, and beside them a simple image, a blue sphere streaked with white clouds and green continents. A planet, their planet. Computer, whispered, search historical databases for any match to those symbols. Searching, 1 match found. Warning, match is classified under Restricted Protocol 7. Access requires Council authorization. Override authorization, emergency priority. The computer was silent for a long moment. Then, match confirmed. Symbols correspond to human language designation. Species classified as extinct. Coordinates redacted. All information sealed by Council Order 3,000 years ago. Stared at the screen, her mind racing. Humans, the legends were real, the myths were true, and somehow, impossibly, they were here. She made a decision that would change everything. Computer, open a hailing frequency to the unknown vessel. Warning, contact with unknown species may violate Council protocols. I said open the frequency. The channel crackled to life and spoke words that had not been spoken by in 3,000 years. Unknown vessel, this is Dr. Park of the Galactic Science Consortium. I mean you no harm. I am detecting Dominion forces in this sector and believe you may be in danger. Please respond. For a long moment there was only silence. Then a voice came back, speaking perfect with an accent had never heard before. Dr. Park, this is Captain Cole of the Earth Defense Coalition vessel Defiance. We are aware of the Dominion forces. We are here to deal with them. I suggest you withdraw to a safe distance. Things are about to get very loud. His hearts were pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Captain Cole, the Dominion has destroyed every fleet that has tried to oppose them. You cannot fight them alone. We are not going to fight them, Dr. Park. We are going to kill them. But I appreciate the concern. If you want to watch, stay on this frequency. You might learn something interesting about the species your council tried to forget. The channel went silent, and on sensors, the human ship began to move toward the Dominion fleet. Admiral Al was in his quarters when the alert came through. He had been reviewing reports from the conquered territories, calculating the efficiency of his extermination campaigns. The numbers pleased him. At the current rate, the galaxy would be cleansed within 5 years. Admiral to the bridge, his communications officer announced. Unknown vessel approaching the fleet. Al's eyes narrowed. Unknown vessels were rare. The Dominion had every species in this region of space, and none of them possessed ships that did not match their databases. This was unusual. When he reached the bridge, his tactical officer pointed to the main. There, Admiral, single ship, unknown design. It appeared on our sensors approximately 10 minutes ago and has been approaching at high speed. Al studied the image with growing curiosity. The ship was small, barely 1/10 the size of his cruisers. Its design was completely unfamiliar, angular and efficient in a way that suggested a species he had never encountered. Have you attempted communication? Yes, Admiral, they responded with a single message. The tactical officer looked uncomfortable. They say they are here to protect the. They say any hostile action will be considered an act of war against their species. Protect the. Al's mandibles clicked in amusement. One ship against our entire fleet. This species is either very brave or very foolish. What are your orders, Admiral? Al considered for a moment. The sensible thing would be to ignore the small vessel and proceed with the invasion. But there was something about this ship that bothered him. Something about the way it moved, the confidence in its approach, the strange efficiency of its design. Attempt communication again, he ordered. I wish to speak to their commander directly. The channel opened and a face appeared on the. It was an alien face, soft and pale, with only 2 eyes and a mouth that curved upward in an expression Al did not recognize. Admiral, the creature said, my name is Cole. I am the commander of this vessel. I am giving you one chance to withdraw your fleet from this system. Take it. You threaten me. Al's voice was cold with contempt. You come to my territory with one small ship and threaten the Dominion. I am not threatening you, Admiral. I am warning you. There is a difference. And what exactly are you warning me about? The human's smile widened, and for just a moment, Al felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt uncertain. I am warning you about us. About what happens when you attack a species that refuses to die. About what happens when you threaten a world under our protection. You have been conquering the galaxy for 2 years now, Admiral. You have destroyed civilizations and murdered billions. And you have done it because you believe no one can stop you. Cole leaned forward, and his eyes seemed to burn with cold fire. You are wrong. The channel closed, and on Al's tactical display, the human ship began to accelerate directly toward his fleet. Admiral, his tactical officer asked nervously. Al watched the approaching vessel for a long moment. Then he gave the order he would regret for the rest of his short life. Destroy it. The Dominion fleet opened fire with everything they had. 300 warships, the most powerful armada ever assembled in this region of space, unleashed their weapons on a single target. Energy beams capable of melting through planetary crusts, kinetic projectiles traveling at a fraction of, missiles carrying warheads that could vaporize mountains. All of it converging on one small ship. The crew of the Defiance had trained for this moment for years. They had run simulations thousands of times, preparing for the day when they would finally face the enemies of humanity. They knew the odds, they knew the risks, and they did not care. All hands battle stations, Captain Cole announced calmly. Navigation, execute evasive pattern Omega. Weapons, hold fire until I give the order. Incoming fire in 5 seconds, Brooks reported from her station. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Defiance moved. To the Dominion gunners, it looked like the human ship simply disappeared. One moment it was there, directly in their targeting reticules. The next moment it was somewhere else entirely, weaving between their weapons' fire like a dancer between raindrops. Their sensors could not track it. Their computers could not predict its movements. It was as if the laws of physics had simply stopped applying. The truth was simpler, but no less terrifying. Humanity had spent 3,000 years in isolation. 3,000 years to develop technology, to perfect their weapons, to prepare for the day when they would return to a galaxy that had forgotten them. They had built ships that could move faster than thought. They had created weapons that could cut through any defense. And they had trained crews who could use those ships and weapons with deadly precision. The Dominion had never faced an enemy like this. They had never even imagined one. First firing solution ready, the weapons officer announced. Fire, Cole said. The Defiance's main gun spoke, and a Dominion cruiser died. The human weapons were not energy beams or kinetic projectiles. They were something far worse. Compressed gravitational singularities, tiny artificial black holes that punched through shields and armor like paper and tore ships apart from the inside out. The first cruiser collapsed in on itself, crushed by gravity into a ball of compressed matter smaller than a human fist. The second cruiser followed a heartbeat later, then the third, then the fourth. "Admiral, we are losing ships," the tactical officer reported, his voice rising with panic. "I do not understand. Their weapons are cutting through our shields like they do not exist." Al stared at the in disbelief. His fleet, his invincible fleet, was being torn apart by a single vessel. Ships that had survived battles against entire armadas were dying in seconds. "How is this possible?" he whispered. On the Defiance, Cole watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. He felt no joy in killing, not even in killing the monsters who had murdered billions of innocent beings. But he felt something else, something that burned in his chest like cold fire. He felt righteous. 17 cruisers destroyed, reported. The remaining enemy vessels are beginning to scatter. Do not let them escape. All ships in the engagement zone are to be eliminated. All ships, sir. Some of them are trying to retreat. I know. Cole's voice was hard. They came here to destroy a world. They came here to murder billions of innocent beings just like they have done to 14 other worlds. If we let them go, they will do it again. They will keep killing until someone stops them. He turned to face his second in command. We are going to stop them here, now, forever. The Defiance accelerated into the heart of the Dominion fleet, weapons blazing. Ship after ship fell before its guns, torn apart by forces they could not understand or defend against. The Dominion commanders tried to coordinate a response, but their communications were jammed. They tried to flee, but the human ship was faster. They tried to surrender, but their messages went unanswered. In the end, they simply died. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, 300 Dominion warships had been reduced to floating debris. Not a single enemy vessel had escaped. The scheduled for extermination was safe. And across the galaxy, beings of every species listened to the transmissions from the battle in stunned disbelief. Dr. Park had recorded everything. Every moment of the battle, every transmission, every image of Dominion ships being destroyed. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely operate her console. "Computer," she said, "prepare to transmit this recording on all open frequencies. Maximum broadcast range. Warning, this recording contains classified military data. Transmission may violate Council protocols." "The Council can file a complaint," said, "Transmit now." The recording went out across the stars. It reached space stations and colony worlds and refugee camps. It was and shared and distributed through networks that had never seen anything like it. Within hours, every inhabited world in the galaxy had witnessed the impossible. The humans had returned, and they had done what no one else could do. They had defeated the Dominion. Admiral Al had survived the battle, but barely. His flagship, the Eternal Conquest, was crippled, its engines destroyed and its weapons offline. He drifted in the wreckage of his fleet, surrounded by the bodies of his crew, waiting for the human ship to finish what it had started. But the killing blow never came. Instead, a transmission came through on his personal channel. The human captain's face appeared on his screen, those strange two eyes staring at him with cold intensity. "Admiral Al," Cole said, "I am going to let you live. I am going to let you take your surviving crew and return to Dominion space. Do you know why?" Al said nothing. His voice had failed him. "Because I want you to deliver a message. I want you to tell your leaders exactly what happened here today. I want you to describe every ship you lost, every weapon that failed, every moment of this battle. And then I want you to tell them this." Cole leaned forward, and his voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. "Tell them the myths are true. Tell them the Pale Wanderers have returned. Tell them that any species under our protection is off limits, and tell them that if they continue their campaign of extermination, we will not stop at their fleets." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We will come to there, we will find their leaders, and we will end them, not because we want to, but because it is necessary, because the galaxy has learned to fear the wrong monsters, and it is time they remembered who they should really be afraid of." The transmission ended, and Admiral Al, conqueror of 100 worlds, sat alone in the darkness of his ruined ship and felt something he had never felt before. He felt afraid. The news of the battle had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species, every faction, every government heard the same impossible story. A single human ship had destroyed an entire Dominion fleet. The unstoppable conquerors had been stopped. The invincible warriors had been defeated. And the legends had come true. On the space station where Old had told his stories, the bar was packed with beings who wanted to talk about nothing else. They played the recordings over and over, watching the human ship weave through the Dominion fire, watching the enemy cruisers collapse under weapons they could not comprehend. "I told you," said, his voice thick with emotion. "I told you the stories were true. My grandfather knew. He knew what they were capable of." "But where did they come from?" a young trader asked. "The council said they were extinct. The quarantine was supposed to be permanent." "The council lied," another voice said. It was Dr. Park, standing in the doorway of the bar. She had traveled to the station specifically to find the old merchant who had told stories of the humans. She had questions that needed answers. "They did not lie," corrected gently. "They simply believed what they wanted to believe. They thought they could make the humans disappear by pretending they did not exist. They thought 3,000 years would be enough." "Enough for what?" "Enough for us to forget. Enough for the humans to fade into legend, to become stories told to children in the dark. But they were wrong." He pointed at where the recording of the battle was playing again. "The humans did not disappear. They did not forget. They simply waited." "Waited for what?" "For this. For the moment when the galaxy needed them. For the moment when all of our technology and all of our civilization would fail and there would be no one left to protect us." Shook his head slowly. "They knew. Somehow they always knew." Sat down across from the old merchant. "I spoke to their captain. He said something that I do not understand. He said the galaxy had learned to fear the wrong monsters." Smiled a tired and knowing smile. "He is right. For 3,000 years we told stories about the humans as if they were demons, as if they were something to be feared and avoided. But they were never the monsters. They were the ones who fought the monsters." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. My grandfather's ship attacked them. They were wounded and dying, and we came to take what was theirs. They fought back. Not because they were evil, but because that is what they do. They fight. They survive. They protect what is theirs." He gestured toward the recording. "And now they are protecting us, all of us, even the council that tried to erase them from existence." Considered his words. She thought about the human captain, about the look in his eyes when he had spoken to her. There had been no anger there, no hatred, only a cold and terrible determination. "Why?" she asked. "Why would they help us after what we did to them?" "Because that is who they are. The old stories got it wrong. They called humans monsters because they could not understand what they were really looking at." "And what is that?" Met her eyes, and for the first time she saw something like hope in his ancient face. "Survivors, protectors, the species that will fight when everyone else has given up. The species that refuses to let evil win, even when the cost is everything they have." He turned back to the recording, watching the human ship destroy yet another Dominion cruiser. The galaxy spent 3,000 years being afraid of the wrong thing, but now the real monsters have arrived. And finally, we have someone willing to stop them. Captain Cole stood alone in his quarters aboard the Defiance, staring out at the stars. The battle was over. There was safe. His crew was celebrating, drinking and laughing and releasing the tension of combat in the way soldiers always did. But Cole did not feel like celebrating. He heard the door open behind him and knew, without looking, that it was. She was the only person on the ship who would enter his quarters without asking permission. "You should be with the crew," she said. "They won, you won." "We won a battle," Cole replied. "The war has not even started yet." Moved to stand beside him, looking out at the same stars. "The recordings are spreading everywhere. Every species in the galaxy has seen what we can do. The Dominion will think twice before attacking another world. For now, but fear fades, they will recover, they will adapt, and they will come for us. Then we will beat them again." Cole shook his head. "It is not that simple. Today we destroyed 300 ships. The Dominion has thousands more. We have one ship, one crew. We cannot protect the entire galaxy by ourselves. So what do we do?" Cole turned to face her. In the dim light, his eyes seemed to glow with an inner fire. "We build alliances. We share our technology. We train the other species to fight back. The Council spent 3,000 years keeping us isolated because they were afraid of what we might do. Now we show them what we can do together. You think they will trust us?" "I think they do not have a choice. The Dominion is coming. They cannot stop it alone. We cannot stop it alone. But together," Cole smiled, and it was the first genuine smile had seen on his face in months. "Together, we might just save the galaxy. And if we cannot, then we die trying. That is what it means to be human." Nodded slowly. She had known Cole for 12 years, and she knew that when he made up his mind about something, nothing in the universe could change it. "What is our next move?" she asked. "We go home, we report to command, and then we start preparing for the real fight." He turned back to the window, looking out at the stars that had feared humanity for 3,000 years. "The Dominion thinks they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They are about to find out how wrong they are." The Dominion High Council met in the Great Chamber aboard their world ship, a vessel the size of a small moon that served as the center of their empire. The 12 members of the council represented the 12 bloodlines that had ruled the Dominion since its founding, their scales marked with the ritual scars of their office. They had gathered to discuss a crisis, unlike any they had faced before. "The reports are confirmed," the first counselor announced. "Admiral Al's fleet has been destroyed. 300 vessels all lost. The only survivor is the Admiral himself, who has returned with a message from the enemy." "What enemy?" another counselor demanded. "Our intelligence shows no species in that region capable of such destruction." "The enemy calls themselves humans. They appear to be a species previously thought extinct." A murmur ran through the chamber. The oldest counselors exchanged uneasy glances. "Humans," one of them said slowly. "I have read the old records. They were quarantined ago, classified as too dangerous to coexist with civilized species. And yet here they are, one ship, 60 crew members, and they destroyed our entire advance fleet." The chamber fell silent. The Dominion had conquered hundreds of species, had crushed empires and erased civilizations. They had never lost a battle. Until now. "What are their demands?" the first counselor asked. "They have none. The message they sent with Admiral Al was simple: stop the exterminations, leave the protected worlds alone, or face the consequences." "Consequences? One ship threatens the entire Dominion. One ship that destroyed 300 of ours. One ship that moves faster than our sensors can track. One ship with weapons that cut through our shields like they do not exist." The counselor paused. "We do not know how many more ships they have. We do not know what other capabilities they possess. We know only that they have declared themselves the protectors of this galaxy, and that they are willing to fight to defend it." Another counselor rose, his scales flushed with anger. "This is unacceptable. We are the Dominion. We do not bow to threats. We do not yield to inferior species. Inferior. They defeated our most powerful fleet without losing a single vessel. Then we send more fleets. We overwhelm them with numbers. We do what? The eldest counselor interrupted. His voice was soft, but it cut through the argument like a blade. We send more ships to die. We waste more resources on an enemy we do not understand. The humans survived 3,000 years of isolation. 3,000 years to prepare for exactly this moment. Do you really think they are not ready for whatever we send against them? The angry counselor sat back down, his fury replaced by uncertainty. Then what do you suggest? He asked. The eldest counselor was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with an emotion none of them had ever heard from him before. Fear. I suggest we listen. I suggest we stop the exterminations, at least temporarily. I suggest we learn everything we can about these humans before we make our next move. You want us to retreat. I want us to survive. The universe is vast and there are many species left to conquer. The humans can wait. The humans will wait. And when we finally understand what we are dealing with, we will return. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each counselor in turn. But if we continue blindly, if we rush into a war we do not understand against an enemy we cannot predict, we may find that the hunters have become the hunted. And the Dominion, for all its power, may join the list of empires that the humans have destroyed. The council voted. It was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The Dominion fleet pulled back from the conquered territories. The extermination stopped. For the first time in 2 years, the galaxy was given a chance to breathe. And in the darkness of space, watching and waiting, humanity prepared for what was to come. 6 months passed. In that time, everything changed. The Earth Defense Coalition opened negotiations with every species willing to talk. They shared technology and training and intelligence. They helped rebuild destroyed worlds and rescued refugees from the chaos. They did not ask for payment or tribute or gratitude. They asked only for one thing: solidarity. When the Dominion comes back, they will come for all of us, Captain Cole told the assembled representatives of 30 different species. They will not care about your borders or your treaties or your differences. They will see only targets. The only way to survive is to stand together. How do we know you will not turn on us? An ambassador asked. The old records say your species is dangerous, that you cannot be trusted. Cole smiled. The old records are right. We are dangerous, but we choose our enemies carefully. And right now, our enemy is the Dominion. What happens when the Dominion is defeated? What happens to all this power you are building? Then we go home. We return to our isolation and let the galaxy govern itself. We do not want an empire ambassador. We never have. We just want to be left alone. And if we do not believe you? Cole shrugged. Then do not trust us. Fight alongside us because you have no other choice. Fight alongside us because the alternative is extinction, but fight alongside us. The ambassador considered for a long moment. Then he extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. My people will stand with you, Captain Cole. May the stars have mercy on us all. One by one, the other representatives followed suit. Species that had been enemies found themselves united against a common threat. Fleets that had never fought together began training for combined operations. Scientists from a dozen different worlds worked together to develop new weapons and defenses. And at the center of it all, humanity stood watch. Dr. Park had given up her career as a scientist to serve as a liaison between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. She spent her days translating, explaining, and building bridges between species that had never trusted each other before. It was exhausting work, but it was also the most important thing she had ever done. One evening, she found herself standing on the observation deck of Sol Station, staring out at the planet called Earth. It was beautiful in a way she had not expected, blue and green and white against the blackness of space. First time seeing it, a voice asked behind her. She turned to find Captain Cole approaching. He looked tired, the weight of command visible in the lines on his face. "Yes," she admitted, "it is different than I imagined." "What did you imagine?" "I do not know, something darker perhaps, more threatening. The stories made your world sound like a nightmare." Cole laughed softly. "The stories got a lot of things wrong. We are not monsters, Dr. Park. We are just people. People who were given a very long time to think about what we wanted to be." "And what did you decide?" He turned to look at his, and his expression softened. "We decided to be ready. For 3,000 years we knew that someday something would threaten the galaxy. Something would come that the other species could not handle alone. And we decided that when that day came, we would be there." "But why? After what the Council did to you, why help us at all?" Cole was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because someone has to. Because if we do not fight the darkness, it will consume everything. Because my grandfather told me stories about the galaxy out there, about all the species and all the wonders and all the possibilities. And I grew up dreaming of the day we would finally see it all." He turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes that she had never expected to find in a human. "Hope. This is not the first contact we imagined, Dr. Park. This is not the peaceful exploration we dreamed of, but it is our chance. Our chance to show the galaxy what humanity really is. Not the monsters from the legends, not the pale wanderers of the myths, just people. People who refuse to let evil win." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away, embarrassed by her own emotion. "I am glad you came back," she said. "I am glad the legends were true." Cole smiled. "So are we, Dr. Park, so are we." The warning came without fanfare. 1 year after the battle of, sensors across the galaxy detected a massive energy signature at the edge of known space. The Dominion was returning, and this time they were bringing their full strength. Initial estimates put their numbers at over 10,000 vessels, Brooks reported. That is the largest fleet they have ever assembled, possibly the largest fleet in galactic history. Cole studied the tactical display with grim determination. Formation. Standard Dominion pattern. Heavy ships in the center, light cruisers on the flanks. They are heading for the Coalition staging area. They are not playing games anymore. This is their real invasion force. "Yes, sir. What are your orders?" Cole looked around the command center of Sol Station, at the officers and analysts and strategists who had spent a year preparing for this moment. Human and alien, they worked side by side, united by a common purpose. "Send word to all Coalition forces. Operation Guardian is now active. All ships are to proceed to their assigned positions immediately." "And the Defiance?" Cole smiled, and it was the smile of a man who had been waiting his entire life for this moment. "The Defiance leads the way. Tell the crew to get ready. We have a galaxy to save." The Coalition fleet assembled at the edge of the cluster, the same system where the war had begun a year ago. It was not as large as the Dominion Armada, not even close, but it was united. It was determined, and it was led by the species that had survived 3,000 years waiting for this fight. Captain Cole stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking out at the assembled fleet. Cruisers flew alongside carriers. Destroyers formed squadrons with ships from species that had been enemies for centuries. And at the heart of it all, the human vessels waited, their angular forms bristling with weapons. "Admiral Al is hailing us," reported. "Put him through." The Dominion commander appeared on screen. He looked different than he had a year ago. The arrogance was gone from his eyes, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. "Captain Cole," Al said, "we meet again." "Admiral, I see you brought friends this time." 10,000 ships, the full might of the Dominion, you cannot win this battle. Maybe not, but we can make sure you lose it too. Al was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, there was something almost like respect in his voice. Why do you do this? Why do you risk everything for species that feared you, that tried to erase you from existence? Cole considered the question. It was a fair one, honestly. Because someone has to, he said finally. Because the galaxy is full of wonders and possibilities and life that deserves a chance to flourish. Because my people spent 3,000 years dreaming of the stars, and now we finally get to see them. And if you die here today, then we die doing what we were born to do. We die protecting the innocent. We die fighting the monsters. Cole leaned forward. But we are going to take a lot of you with us, Admiral. I promise you that. Al nodded slowly, then let it begin. The transmission ended, and across the battlefield, 10,000 Dominion warships began their advance. Cole turned to face his crew. They looked back at him with trust and determination and a hint of fear. They were human, after all. Fear was part of what made them who they were. All hands, he announced. This is the moment we have been waiting for. This is the moment we prove that the legends were right to fear us. Not because we are monsters, but because we are the ones who fight the monsters. He paused, letting the words sink in. Whatever happens today, know that I am proud of every single one of you. Know that humanity is proud of you. And know that no matter how this ends, we will never stop fighting. We will never surrender. We will never give up. He turned back to where the Dominion fleet was growing larger by the second. Now let us show them what we are made of. The Battle of had been a demonstration. The second battle of was a war. The two fleets collided in a storm of fire and death that would be remembered for. Ships exploded. Weapons blazed. The darkness of space was lit by the light of 1,000 suns. And in the heart of the chaos, the Defiance led the way. Cole's ship moved like a dancer through the battle, weaving between enemy vessels and leaving destruction in its wake. The human weapons sang their terrible song, and Dominion cruisers died by the dozens. Behind them, the Coalition fleet fought with desperate courage, holding the line against overwhelming odds. But the Dominion had learned from their defeat. They adapted. They changed their tactics, and slowly, inexorably, they began to push forward. We are losing ships, reported. The Coalition left flank is collapsing. Send reserves to reinforce them, and tell the commander to hold his position. Sir, the reserves are already engaged. We do not have anyone left to send. Cole stared at the tactical display, watching the battle unfold. The Coalition was holding, but barely. For every Dominion ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. The mathematics of the battle were simple and brutal. They were going to lose. Unless something changed. Cole said quietly, I need you to take command of the fleet. She turned to look at him, her eyes widening. Sir. Someone needs to coordinate the Coalition forces. Someone they trust. Someone who can hold them together until this is over. And what about you? Cole turned back to where the Dominion flagship loomed in the distance. It was massive, the largest ship in their fleet, the symbol of everything they represented. I am going to end this war. That is suicide. Probably. He smiled at her, and for just a moment he looked like the young officer she had met 12 years ago. But we always knew it might come to this. We always knew that someday we might have to sacrifice everything to save everyone else. There has to be another way. There is not, and you know it. He reached out and gripped her shoulder. You are the best officer I have ever served with. Take care of the fleet. Take care of Earth. And make sure they remember what we did here today. Before she could respond, he turned and walked off the bridge. The Defiance changed course, accelerating toward the Dominion flagship at full speed. Around it, the Coalition fleet fought on, unaware of what their commander was planning. Admiral Al watched the approaching vessel with something like admiration. He knew what Cole was attempting. He could have ordered his fleet to stop the small ship, to destroy it before it reached his flagship. He did not. "Admiral," his tactical officer asked, "the human vessel is on a collision course." "I know. Should we intercept?" Al considered the question. He thought about everything he had seen, everything he had learned about these strange creatures from a forgotten corner of the galaxy. "No," he said finally. "Let him come. He has earned the right to face me directly." The defiance grew larger on his, its weapons still blazing as it cut through the ships that tried to block its path. It was beautiful, in a terrible way. "Sir, impact in 60 seconds. Al stood and faced open a channel to the human vessel. Cole's face appeared on screen. He looked calm, almost peaceful. "Admiral," Cole said, "I wanted you to know why I am doing this. To destroy my ship, to kill me and end the war. No, to show the galaxy what humanity truly is." "And what is that?" Cole smiled. "We are the species that will sacrifice everything to protect the innocent. We are the ones who will die so that others can live. We are not the monsters from your legends, Admiral. We are the light that fights the darkness." "You are a fool." "Maybe, but I am a fool who believes in something, and that makes me stronger than you will ever understand." The transmission ended, and on the defiance filled the world. The collision was visible from 1,000 light-years away. The Defiance struck the Dominion flagship at full speed, its remaining weapons firing even as the two vessels merged into a single ball of expanding fire. The explosion consumed both ships, vaporizing thousands of tons of metal and thousands of lives in an instant. Including Admiral Al. Including Captain Cole. The Dominion fleet faltered. Their flagship was gone. Their commander was dead. The impossible had happened. And Brooks seized the moment. "All coalition forces, this is Commander Brooks taking command. The enemy flagship is destroyed. Their formation is breaking. Push forward now. All ships attack." The coalition fleet surged forward, energized by sacrifice and hope and rage. They tore into the disorganized Dominion forces, exploiting every weakness, punishing every mistake. Ships that had been retreating turned and fought. Species that had been on the verge of breaking and attacked. The tide of battle turned. When it was over, the Dominion had lost more than half their fleet. The survivors, scattered and leaderless, fled into the darkness between galaxies. The coalition had won. But the victory was not without cost. Stood alone on the bridge of the surviving coalition command ship, staring at the coordinates where the Defiance had made its final stand. There was nothing left. No wreckage, no debris, just empty space where the greatest captain she had ever known had given his life. "Commander Brooks," a voice said behind her. It was Dr. Park, her eyes red with tears. "The coalition representatives are asking to speak with you. They want to discuss what comes next." "Did not turn around. Tell them I will be there in a moment." "Are you all right?" No, his voice was barely above a whisper. "But I will be. He would want me to be." She turned to face the one last time, looking out at the stars that Cole had given his life to protect. "Goodbye," she said softly. "We will take it from here." The war was not over. There would be more battles, more sacrifices, more losses in the years to come. But on that day, in that moment, the galaxy understood something that they had forgotten for 3,000 years. Humanity was not a myth. Humanity was not a legend. Humanity was the shield that stood between civilization and darkness, the sword that struck down those who would destroy innocent lives, the light that burned in the void. And as long as humans existed, as long as they remembered what they had fought for and why, the galaxy would never face the darkness alone. The myths were true, and the myths had come to save them all.